Jason had never liked moving. The sound of boxes being dragged across the thin metal floors, the smell of recycled air, and the constant hum of the colony's energy grid made him feel trapped. Yet here he was, in a small apartment on the edge of the human settlement on the planet nearest 7. It wasn't much. Bare walls, a single bed, a desk, and a small kitchen corner. But it was his. For the first time in months, he had a place that felt his own. The neighbors were mostly humans, busy with their own work. But there was one he noticed more than the others. Lyra. She lived in the apartment across the hall, and she was nothing like any human he had met. Her skin shimmered with a subtle blue glow, and her eyes were enormous, almost liquid, with irises that changed color depending on her mood. Her movements were smooth, deliberate like a dancer's, and her hair floated gently, defying gravity in a way that made it seem almost alive. Jason first saw her when he had been carrying boxes up the stairwell, and she had smiled at him in a way that made him feel like she could see more than he intended to show. He didn't know much about her species, only that they were called Nyrians, a race known for their intelligence, curiosity, and unusual social customs. Humans often struggled to understand them, and Nyrians sometimes found humans blunt or reckless. Jason, however, had always been curious. That curiosity had made him volunteer for this assignment on Nyris 7. The first night in his apartment, Jason slept uneasily. He wasn't used to the sounds of the colony, the faint whirring of life support, the distant clank of machinery, the occasional hiss of air vents. Despite being tired, he found himself half awake, listening to the unfamiliar rhythm of alien life outside his door. Sometime in the middle of the night, he felt a faint change in the air. A cool breeze brushed across his face, though all the windows were shut. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment he froze. There at the doorway of his room stood Lyra. She didn't speak at first. She simply stood, her tall frame casting a soft shadow in the dim light of his bedside lamp. Jason's heart raced. Hi, he whispered, unsure if he should sit up or stay still. Lyra, what are you doing here? Her eyes glimmered like liquid sapphires, and for a second Jason thought he saw something almost like curiosity mixed with caution. Then slowly she raised her hands and held out a small device. It glowed softly, projecting a thin light that hummed with energy. Jason squinted. What's that? Lyra's voice was melodic, soft, almost musical. It is a translation and observation device. I am learning human behaviors during sleep. It is a sign of trust in my culture to observe carefully. Jason blinked. Observe me? Sleeping? Yes, she replied, tilting her head slightly. I mean no harm. I wish only to understand. For a moment, Jason wasn't sure what to feel. It seemed intrusive, yes, but there was no malice in her eyes. Just curiosity. The Nyrians were known for this. They explored the world not with their hands first, but with careful observation. Jason felt his tension ease slightly. Okay, he said cautiously, sitting up. I guess that's fine? Lyra nodded, stepping closer, careful to avoid touching anything. Jason noticed her skin shimmer more intensely in the light, her features delicate but unmistakably alien. There was a kind of elegance about her, an intelligence that radiated from every motion. Why did you come now? He asked, still curious and slightly nervous. In my culture, Lyra explained, watching another being while they rest is an act of trust. It shows respect, and it allows me to understand without disturbing your waking mind. Humans are different. I wish to learn without harm. Jason laughed softly, shaking his head. Well, I'll admit, that's not how humans usually show respect. Most of us would knock first. Her eyes flickered with a faint blue glow, and for a moment Jason thought he saw amusement in them. Your customs are interesting, she said. I am learning. He paused, then realized this was a rare chance. You want to learn about humans, huh? Yes, she said simply. And you are a human. So I learn from you. Jason leaned back, still wary but intrigued. He didn't usually meet anyone who wanted to understand him this much, or at all. Well, I guess I can help, he said. But don't get used to me being this awake at night. Lyra smiled faintly. It was a smile that seemed to glow from within. She sat down across from him, careful to hover slightly above the floor, her legs crossed in a way that seemed natural for her, yet almost impossible for a human. Jason felt a strange calmness in her presence, as if her calm observation was contagious. They talked for hours. Or maybe it was only minutes. Time seemed different when he was with her. Lyra asked about human habits, about the way humans think, about why they sleep the way they do, about their dreams. Jason answered as best he could, realizing that articulating these things made him think about himself in ways he hadn't before. Then, curious, he asked about her. "Do Nyrians sleep the same way humans do?" Lyra shook her head. "No. We rest, but our minds remain partially aware. We dream differently. Observing you helps me understand your vulnerabilities, your strength, not to harm, only to learn." Jason nodded slowly. He could see now that her midnight visit wasn't some random intrusion. It was an invitation to share knowledge, to connect across worlds. "You really want to understand humans?" he asked. "Yes," she said, her voice soft like a breeze. "I want to know what makes you, you." It struck Jason then how small acts of curiosity could build bridges between worlds. He realized that in a place so far from Earth, on a planet where survival often meant isolation, someone cared enough to understand rather than conquer. "You know," he said, "I didn't expect to meet anyone like you when I moved here. Most people just ignore each other." "Humans are fascinating," she said, her eyes reflecting the dim light. "Your curiosity, your courage, your emotions, all are so different from mine. I wish to learn more." Jason leaned back against his pillow, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. This wasn't just a random encounter. It was the start of something unusual, something that could change the way he thought about his life here. For the first time since he had arrived on Nearest 7, he didn't feel alone. And he realized that the universe, vast as it was, might not be as indifferent as he had believed. A single act of trust, her walking into his room in the dead of night, had opened a door he hadn't even known existed. By the time Lyra finally stood to leave, the first light of Nairi 7's twin suns had begun to filter through the window. Jason felt a pang of disappointment. He hadn't realized how much he had enjoyed talking to her, how natural it felt despite their differences. Will you come again?" he asked almost sheepishly. Lyra's eyes softened. "If it helps me understand, yes. But only if you wish it. Trust is mutual, Jason. I do not wish to impose." Jason smiled, a genuine human smile full of gratitude. "I think I'd like that." She nodded once lightly, almost as if confirming a silent promise, then disappeared into the corridor, leaving Jason staring at the now empty doorway. He lay back down, his mind racing with thoughts of Nereians, of Lyra, and of the strange, fragile connection forming between them. Sleep didn't come immediately, but he didn't mind. For the first time, being awake in the middle of the night didn't feel lonely. It felt full of possibility. Outside, the colony continued its steady hum, oblivious to the quiet meeting that had just taken place. But within the walls of a small apartment on Nearest 7, a human and an alien had begun to understand one another, and in that understanding lay the beginning of something extraordinary. Jason closed his eyes, feeling a cautious hope bloom inside him. Tomorrow, he thought, he would wake up and see the world again, but tonight, he had glimpsed a future where humans and Nereians might not just coexist, but connect in ways neither species had imagined. And somewhere down the hall, Lyra watched the faint glow of the sunlight creeping through the window, thinking the same thing. Jason woke up the next morning to the soft hum of the colony's energy grid. He blinked, still half asleep, and noticed something unusual, the faint scent of alien herbs wafting through his room. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and then realized Lyra was there, hovering near the small kitchen corner. "Good morning," she said, her voice soft and melodic, almost like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Her eyes, still shifting in color, glimmered with quiet amusement. "Morning," Jason mumbled, surprised. Did you sleep over?" Lyra shook her head. "No. I arrived early to prepare something for you. Humans call it breakfast." Jason raised an eyebrow, curious despite himself. "Breakfast? You made breakfast?" "Yes," she replied, manipulating a small alien device that hovered above the counter. It emitted a faint glow and produced a perfectly cooked meal within seconds, a mix of Earth-style eggs and Nerian nutrient spheres that shimmered with a soft light. Jason couldn't help but stare in fascination. "Wow, that's impressive." Lyra tilted her head, a gesture that reminded him of a bird studying him. "It is simple for me, but I thought you might enjoy a human-alien combination, a bridge between our worlds." Jason chuckled, feeling warmth spread through him. Really something, you know that? She smiled faintly. And you are curious, brave, and patient. Qualities humans often overlook in themselves. They ate together quietly, the morning light filtering in from the small window. Jason found himself observing her more closely than ever before. The subtle shimmer of her skin, the way her fingers moved with precision, the gentle rise and fall of her chest as she breathed. It was remarkable, but not intimidating somehow. It felt natural. After breakfast, Jason had to leave for his work assignment, maintaining the colony's communication arrays on the outer edge of Nyrus 7. Lyra offered to accompany him. Her curiosity about human technology piqued. He hesitated for a moment. Normally, humans wouldn't allow an alien to interfere in technical work. But he realized she wasn't here to meddle. She was here to learn, to understand, and perhaps to help. When they reached the arrays, Jason noticed immediately how much more efficient their work became. Lyra's knowledge of energy flows and Nerian technology helped him diagnose problems faster. Her alien insight complemented his human ingenuity, and together they resolved issues that would have taken Jason alone nearly twice as long. You humans rely heavily on trial and error, Lyra observed, watching him adjust a delicate circuit. It is fascinating. You succeed despite imperfection. Jason smiled. And you Nerians rely on what? Observation and calculation? Yes, but humans have courage. Sometimes that makes up for what they lack in planning. She tilted her head, her eyes glimmering. You are courageous, Jason. He felt a strange thrill at her words. Most humans wouldn't compliment bravery in the way she did. For Nerians, it seemed to be an acknowledgement of inner strength rather than a superficial remark. Jason found himself wanting to live up to that observation. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the array station. Jason's stomach dropped. A section of the colony's energy grid was failing. Lights flickered across the nearby settlements and distant sirens echoed through the empty valleys. Stay calm, Lyra said, her voice steady. We can fix this together. Jason nodded, adrenaline sharpening his senses. He worked quickly, tracing energy flows, rerouting power through auxiliary lines, while Lyra hovered nearby, guiding him with precise instructions. Together, they navigated the complex systems, combining human intuition and Nerian logic. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sweat poured down Jason's face, but he didn't stop. Lyra's presence was steadying, her calm efficiency giving him confidence. Then as he manipulated a delicate energy node, a surge of electricity threatened to arc toward him. Instinctively, he dove aside, narrowly avoiding injury. Lyra reacted instantly, extending a protective field from her device, shielding him from the blast. Are you unharmed? She asked, eyes wide with concern. Yes, thanks to you, Jason said, breathing heavily. He realized in that moment how fragile human life could be compared to her alien resilience, and yet how his courage and quick thinking had mattered. Together they had balanced each other, her precision, his daring. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the energy grid stabilized. Lights returned to the colony, sirens faded, and a quiet cheer echoed from nearby buildings as residents realized the crisis had been averted. Jason leaned against a console, exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra floated closer, her glowing skin reflecting the emergency lights. You are remarkable human, she said softly. You acted without fear, and your actions saved lives. Jason shook his head, trying to shrug off the praise. We did it together. I couldn't have done it alone. Her eyes softened, and she reached out, placing a delicate hand on his arm, not touching directly, but close enough to convey trust. Perhaps. But your courage, it is uniquely human. I understand why Nerians respect this trait. It is beautiful. Jason felt a warmth he couldn't explain. He realized that Lyra's admiration wasn't just for his actions. It was for the essence of being human. Humans could falter, could make mistakes, could feel fear, but they could also rise above it, improvise, and act with purpose. It was something Nerians seemed to appreciate deeply. As they returned to the apartment later, the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a soft glow over the settlement. Jason realized how much his perception of life on Nyrus 7 had changed. It was no longer just survival and work. It was connection, understanding, and discovery. Lyra had opened his eyes to possibilities he had never considered. Over the following weeks, their bond grew. They shared meals, explored the colony together, and exchanged knowledge about their respective worlds. Jason taught her simple human games, while Lyra introduced him to alien strategies and philosophies. Each interaction revealed more about the human spirit and the Nerian mind. One evening, while watching the twin suns set over the alien horizon, Jason asked, "Do you think humans could ever live among Nerians comfortably?" Lyra's eyes reflected the fading light. "Perhaps. If humans remain curious, brave, and willing to learn, your species has a capacity for trust and courage that many Nerians lack. That is why I watch and why I learn." Jason smiled faintly. "And you think I'm a good example?" Her gaze softened. "You are extraordinary. But more than that, you remind me that humans are more than their flaws. They are capable of greatness." That night, they stayed up talking until the colony's lights dimmed and the streets grew quiet. Jason realized that he had come to rely on Lyra's presence not just for knowledge or guidance, but for companionship. She made him feel understood in a way that no other human or alien had before. Months passed, and their friendship became a symbol for others in the colony. Humans and Nerians began to interact more openly, inspired by the partnership they had witnessed between Jason and Lyra. The colony thrived in new ways, with humans' ingenuity and Nerians' precision combining to create solutions that neither species could have achieved alone. One night, while they stood on the apartment balcony, Jason looked at Lyra. "You know, if I hadn't fallen asleep that first night, none of this would have happened." She smiled, a soft glow in her eyes. "And if I hadn't entered your room, I would have missed discovering something important. That even in sleep, humans have depth, courage, strength, and the capacity for trust." Jason nodded, realizing the truth in her words. In a universe so vast and unpredictable, connections like theirs were rare and precious. It was a reminder that even on a distant planet, humans could make a difference, not just with technology or strength, but with curiosity, courage, and compassion. As the twin suns set behind them, casting long shadows over the colony, Jason and Lyra stood side by side. The horizon was a reminder of endless possibilities, a universe full of challenges but also full of hope. And in that quiet, unassuming apartment on Nera 7, humanity had left a mark, not through conquest but through understanding, bravery, and the willingness to trust. Jason knew that this was only the beginning. Many challenges would come, but with Lyra by his side, he felt ready for anything. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it meant to be human, and why humanity could thrive among the stars. And somewhere nearby, Lyra thought the same thing, that in Jason, she had found a reflection of humanity's best qualities: courage, curiosity, and a heart willing to take risks. Together they had formed a bridge between worlds, showing that even the smallest acts of trust and understanding could change the course of lives, and perhaps even the destiny of their worlds.